So first I just want to ask, does everybody know what a cochlear implant is? Is everyone familiar? Raise your hand. Wonderful. So 90% of deaf children are born to hearing parents, and I believe that these children should have the opportunity to speak the same language as their parents. There's a lot of people in the deaf community that don't believe that is true. It's an area of interest for me because my daughter has a cochlear implant. She's 6 years old. She was implanted at 2.5. And it was really not a big problem for me to make that decision because I come from a hearing world. So I wanted to give my daughter the opportunity to hear. So in order to help you guys better understand my stance on the benefits of cochlear implants for children, despite the controversy within the deaf community, I want to discuss, first I want to discuss a few of the anti-implant stances that the deaf community takes. First one being that deafness is a cultural identity, not a disability. The second is that a lot of people in the deaf community feel that implanted children will feel a lot of social and emotional isolation from their hearing peers and also from their deaf peers, as they're not a part of both worlds. The third and fourth reasons are mostly medical, the risks of the surgery and the risks post-surgery. During the surgery, there's the risk with the anesthesia and facial nerve trauma. Post-surgery, some of the risks are meningitis and loss of residual hearing. So I found these reasons. This was in a study done, it was presented at Drury University's Interdisciplinary Research Conference by 2 deaf educators. They did a study where they talked to a lot of members of the deaf community and basically put together these were the 4 main reasons found in the study that the deaf community is against the cochlear implant. So I want to kind of just go through each point to show you what I found in the research and my own personal experience with my daughter, as to not so much disprove these reasons, but kind of just to refute them, to show you that it's not, as bad as the deaf community says it is. In 1999, Gallaudet University did a study where they sent 1,800 questionnaires to parents of deaf children with cochlear implants. They received 439 responses back from the parents, and out of those 439, they also did 52 at-home interviews with parents of the implanted children. The questionnaires were, basically wanted to know, one reason was their main reason for deciding to get the child a cochlear implant. And as you can see, the top reason was ease in development and use of oral spoken language. The second top reason was child safety or environmental awareness. Now, most of these parents, as you can see, the numbers go down as far as convenience and daily to gain hearing. These parents stated they didn't want their children not to be a part of the deaf community, but to be a part of both worlds. And more than half of the families that were interviewed in these questionnaires said that they did continue to sign with their child, because a lot of people in the deaf community feel that once a child is implanted, they will no longer sign, which pushes them even further from the deaf community. They found in this study that this was not true. More than 50% of the families continued to sign with the child. Another reason that the deaf community is against cochlear implants is education-wise. They feel that there's not enough services for deaf children, which that is true, that for deaf children with no assistive hearing devices, there are not a lot of options. For cochlear implanted children, the children in this survey, 40% of them were receiving sign language interpreting. 37% had a teacher's aide in the classroom. There are a lot more educational support services for cochlear implanted children because it's easier to work with. There's not as much a breakdown in communication. So more than half the parents in this study by Gallaudet still felt that their child was deaf, which they are, and I'm not disputing that. I still see my child as deaf because, unfortunately, while deafness, yes, it is a cultural identity, it also is a disability. Legally, it is a disability. So they see that the deaf community doesn't see it as a disability, which I understand, but Unfortunately, it is. 80% of parents in the survey felt that their children were not isolated from either their hearing peers or their deaf peers. A lot of the children were in integrated classrooms with deaf and hearing children, and signed to the deaf children and spoke with the hearing children. Well, it takes a little bit longer for a cochlear implanted child to gain speech and language perception over, at the same rate as the hearing child. They still can do it, and 50% of the parents in the study also wish that their child had been implanted earlier. And that's how I felt. My daughter was implanted at 2.5. I wish I didn't know till she was 2.5 that she was deaf. Had I known at 12 months old, I would have had her implanted then, because it would have given her that extra jump. She lost 2.5 years of hearing, and it's taken her, she's still not up to where she should be. So the earlier you get implantation, the better your child will see that the speech improvement. Now, in a technical report, one other thing I wanted to talk about was the changes in views of the National Association of the Deaf and of Gallaudet University. Both used to be very anti-cochlear implant, but as of 1999 and 2000, both the National Association of the Deaf and Gallaudet have changed their stances as to giving more of the parental choice for the choice of an implant. And now, for the medical reasons that the deaf community, the risk during surgery and the risk post-surgery, I found a technical report by the American Speech, Language, and Hearing Association that actually was a full report on cochlear implants from start to finish. They reported that all of the risks that are associated with cochlear implant surgery are all minimal. As with any surgery, whether it be a child or adult, there's always a risk with anesthesia. So that really, I don't think really plays into it. The risk of facial nerve trauma is very minimal. The only reason they talk about that is because when they do an implant, the surgery is so close to the facial nerves. When my daughter was being implanted before her surgery, I was told there was that risk, but it would only be temporary. If the facial nerve was touched, the problem would go away within a week or two. Post-surgery, you have meningitis and loss of residual hearing. Meningitis, according to the American Speech, Language, and Hearing Association, really only the people who have the higher risk of meningitis are people who have had meningitis prior to the surgery, which is a cause of hearing loss. All children before they are implanted are required by law to have a meningitis vaccine. And healthy children, when they're born, I believe about 8, 9 months old, have a meningitis vaccine, but when they have the surgery, they're required to have an extra one to prevent bacterial meningitis. And loss of residual hearing, which is just basically the loss of any natural hearing the child might have had in their ear, if they had enough hearing that a hearing aid would be sufficient, they wouldn't need a cochlear implant. So, and that's pretty much it as far as the facts. I have one more fact. According to the American Speech and Language Hearing Association study, also, cochlear implant children seem to mainstream earlier than hearing impaired children with no assistive devices. They also tend to require less special ed support services as they go on in school, which can save huge educational costs for the school and the family. So that's it for the facts that I found. And I just want to finish up with talking about my daughter, who I'm sure Andy is tired of hearing about. But my daughter, like I said, it was a personal choice, and I feel it's every parent's choice when the child is young enough that they can't make the choice for themselves. The way I look at it is when my daughter is 16, 17, if she turns around to me and says, I don't want to wear this anymore, that's her decision. She's old enough to make that decision. But as a baby, it was my decision. Nobody knows what's right for your child more than the parents do. And I felt that that was the right choice for my daughter because it's the language I speak. And we do sign. My daughter signs fluently, and so do I, thanks to Andy. But, I don't feel that my daughter is isolated from the hearing world or the deaf world. I feel she's a part of both. And I think she's very, very happy little girl. She speaks, she signs, she's very happy and very loud. And so that's about it, but I do think it's everybody's choice, but I do think cochlear implants are a benefit to deaf children, even though there is the big controversy in the deaf world. And that's my speech. And thank you. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. No? Nobody? No?